Lovely.
Perfect.
So this whole thing, this situation, this whole thing, what's that like?
It's like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff,
And what's to your left?
a dark night sky.
A dark night sky. Okay, cool. What's to your right?
Um, there's a marshy kind of field and then into ocean.
So it's like marshy and then it leads into ocean.
That's correct, yeah.
Cool. What's behind you?
There's a brick wall quite close behind,
How close?
within a foot.
Within a foot. Okay, cool. What are you standing on?
There's some of the like mucky, marshy ground, kind of muddy, wet, marshy.
So you're standing in marshy ground. Cool. And there's a wall behind you. What sort of wall is it out of interest?
It's a brick wall, red brick wall. Well, like that. Brick color. It's brick color brick wall.
Cool. Okay. So, we've got, there you are. You've got a brick wall behind you, marshy ground you're standing on. There's also marshy ground with an ocean to your left. There's a cliff in front of you, and there's a dark night sky to your left.
Yes, and the ocean part is on the right. Yes.
Yeah, the ocean part's on the right. Cool.
Yeah.
So you say a dark night sky.
Yeah.
Is the full thing dark night sky, out of curiosity? Because there's nothing at the ground level from what you just said.
Yeah, I guess yes, there is like the ground does extend to my left, and eventually there's a kind of horizon point where it meets that dark sky, that night sky.
Is it also marshy ground out of interest?
No, more dusty, dry.
Dry. Okay, dusty.
Dirt.
Dirt. And what's at the bottom? There's a cliff in front of you, right?
The cliff is in front, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what's at the bottom of the cliff?
Forest and a creek, a little rivery stream.
Forest and a creek. Did you know I've done lots of cliffs before? No one has ever had a forest or a creek. Normally, for me, it's like an ocean or dryness, but cool. Okay, so is that about right? So forest and a creek at the bottom. So how do you deal with this in real life, Tonya? In real life, how do you deal with this?
I keep my mouth shut.
Keep your mouth shut. Lovely. Keep your mouth shut. Lovely. So, if I've understood this right, there's no going back on this situation. I mean, you can't retreat. The way back is blocked, and the background to this, there's essentially a wall there. You can't see what's in the background to this. If anything, it's all blocked up. Now, what's to your right is not necessarily the most pleasant thing to walk through. You could really sink into what's right. If anything, it could end up like coating the steps you'll take and wouldn't make them the most pleasant steps. But I mean, if you were to keep going in the right direction, I mean, these things could be washed off. These things could be cleaned, but at the same time, you could be swept out to sea. Because one of the things about like a marsh or a bog is it's quite natural, but at the same time, what's right for you is quite saturated. If anything, it's something, if you put your foot wrong, you could sink into. And it might really dirty your steps if you were to walk in a maybe drier or cleaner place. So, I mean, as much as you could explore what's right, it could be, I mean, it could end up being a little bit dirty and a little bit, I don't know, it might end up being a bit of a shame if you were to progress in that direction. Now, what's left for you, I mean, isn't necessarily that bright. If anything, it's the polar opposite, it's dark. I mean, yeah, there are some spots of light. There is some light far in the distance, and when we talk far in the distance, that's like hundreds of thousands of millions of miles in the distance. But what's quite interesting is what's left is quite opposite to what's right, because what's right is, I don't know, there's a certain flow to what's right. I mean, at least in the long run. And what's left is pretty dry, pretty bare. there's not really much left for you. You could explore what's left, but it'd be quite barren, it would seem. But you're actually looking forward to going over the edge. I mean, for some people, they like to get to the edge. Some people like to jump off. Some people really like to, see what it's like to have no support. But then it will be a huge letdown. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you get to the bottom of these things, it is quite natural. It is quite flowing. But you do need to step over the edge. Oh, but if you do step over the edge, it'll probably end up killing you. This is something that you, as you know you now, if you progress in this direction, the you that you know is not going to survive. Because there's no support for this you to survive that. So, Tonya, let's imagine you and I are walking down a strange road and we see this woman here. All behind her, cliff in front, marshy ground, ocean to the left, dark sky, dusty ground to the left, marsh to the right. Don't worry, we know how to deal with this. We know how to deal with this. Just keep your mouth shut. Good advice?
No.
Any better advice for this poor, unfortunate soul?
Take a stand and speak up.
Update to the advice. I look so sinister when I do that, by the way. I'm like evil. It could be like some demonic ritual. Just update to the advice. Just take a stand, say something. Yeah, cool, nice. So let's just try something for a moment, Tonya. Just standing there with that wall behind you, dusty to the left, marsh to the right. Just take a step back and tell me what you notice.
Bump up against the wall.
And what happens?
It feels warm, but also scratchy, and I want to move away from it.
And how does that change things?
I think it, solidifies. There's no going back.
Okay, go back to the original position. Take a step to your right and tell me what you notice.
I do sink in a bit to the marsh.
And what happens?
There just has to be a pause as I kind of think about what's next. I have to be pretty clever about what I do next.
How does that change things?
Yeah, I need to slow down.
Go back to the original position you're in. Take a step to your left and tell me what you notice.
It feels heavy.
And what happens?
Feels like crying.
And how does that change things?
It might be a good thing to do.
Go back to the original position you're in. Take a step forward and tell me what you notice.
Right on the edge. And look over and almost feel like I'm about to go over.
And what happens?
There's feels like a wobbly loss of balance.
And how does that change things?
I want to take a step back.
Gotcha. Cool. So it's pretty clear in this situation. I mean, the background to this is actually probably warmer than you thought, but it's also a little bit irritating what's in the background. Now, if you are to take a step in the right direction, I mean, you're going to sink into it. It's going to be a little bit letdown, but there is some chance to reflect on what is the right thing. But if you're actually going to explore what's left, it sounds like the only thing that's left brings up some sort of emotion. It sounds like maybe what's left is to just shed some tears over this, But what's stopping you is when you progress and when you take steps forward, you are on edge. You get a bit wobbly. Some might say maybe you potentially doubt yourself because being wobbly, you're unsure of the support you'll get, and you'd be right. Because the next step forward would take you over the edge. It would be a letdown, and it would be very different because we all know from metaphor, up is good, down is bad. So you're getting wobbly because if you're to take steps forward, and if you're to take more than one step forward, you probably let yourself down quite considerably. So it's quite understandable you're going to wobble. Any thoughts, questions, observations on that one?
Oh, I think it's all spot on.
Nice.
Oh,
Thank you for your time, and thank you for being in this demonstration, Tonya. Much appreciate it.
thank you.